Hi! In this video I will explain you the theory about the required elements in double dutch. When you do a freestyle in double dutch, you will be scored on the difficulty and you will be scored on the creativity. Creativity is divided in two parts. We have presentation and we have required elements. So in this part I'm going to explain you the required elements. We have two kinds of required elements. We have some requirements for the jumpers and we have some requirements for the turners. So, some requirements for the jumpers, some requirements for the turners. Let's immediately go to the jumpers. We don't ask from every jumper to do a certain amount of skills or a certain kind of skills. No, we look at the freestyle as a whole team that is doing something. So in total we want to see, for instance, so many gymnastic skills or so many power skills or power series or whatever. We don't expect each of them to do, for instance, 2 gymnastic skills. No, we do want to see 4 gymnastic skills, and one of them has to be some kind of an aerial or a salto or whatever, but it's possible that it's just one of the people doing all of these gymnastic skills. That's not a problem in a double dutch routine, in a singles double dutch routine. Of course, in a double dutch routine, so the routine with 4 people, the 2 people who are in the rope both have to do those gymnastic skills. Let's have a look at what they have to do exactly. So, turners, first of all, the whole team has to do in total 2 power skill series of at least 4 power skills. So, let's talk singles double dutch, so with 3 people, 1 person in the rope. If the first person in the rope, he starts with a power skill series, which is, for instance, from a frog immediately into a push-up, from a push-up into a split, and from the push-up into another push-up, and then he comes out. That is 1 power skill series of at least 4 power skills. There was a frog, there was a push-up, there was a split, and there was another push-up. So that is great. That's already the first series. If later on this person or another person of that team does another series, and this can be, for instance, from a push-up into a crab, into another crab, into a push-up, which is a very good power series. It's another series of at least 4 skills, push-up, crab, crab, push-up. Great. Then they already have done that part of the required elements, the 2 power skill series of at least 4 power skills. What is not a power series? For instance, from a frog into a push-up, coming out of the push-up, going into a split, and from the split to another split, coming out of the split. Because it's not a series. The series was broken after the push-up. They did frog push-up and then it breaks, because then you come out of the push-up and then you go into the split. So it has to be a series of power skills, not gymnastic skills. It has to be power skills. Okay? That's the first requirement. Second requirement, in the freestyle you have to see some power skills of a high power level. At least 4 of them, 4 different ones. What are power skills of a high power level or higher power level? Basically all the power skills which are not the basic power skill. And the basic power skill is a frog, is a push-up, is a split, is etc, etc, etc. These are the normal, regular power skills. If you make it a little bit harder, if you need a little bit more power to do it, it is already considered as a difficult power skill. For instance, not an ordinary push-up, but a push-up just on one hand. Not an ordinary frog, but a frog on one hand. Not an ordinary frog, but what we call a consecutive, when you're standing in a frog upside down, and you go from that frog immediately to another frog and you come out. That's also a high power level. Okay? Also everything with a double under or a triple under. If the turners turn a double under and you go into a push-up while you're there turning the double under, you need much more power than a regular power. So you need to have at least 4 of those in your routine. You also need to do 4 gymnastic skills. Can be a roll, a round-off, cartwheel, one-handed cartwheel, saltos, whatever. But at least one of those fours has to be a salto or an aerial, or what we call also an unassisted flip, and so on. So basically everything that is a really difficult gymnastic skill. Watch out, there are a few comments. If you do a double Dutch double routine, so with 2 people, how do we count? If we have those 2 people inside the rope, they both have to do a series of at least 4 power skills at the same time. So they both have to do 4 power skills in a row. They don't have to do exactly the same power skill. They can do, for instance, the first one can do, the first skipper can do frog to push-up to push-up to split, and the other one can do a push-up to a push-up immediately to a frog falling into a split, and they do this together. Great. Then they get points for this series. Then they only get 1 point, because this was only 1 power sequence. Although they both did it, it's only 1 power sequence. Same thing with the high power level skills. Both of them have to do the high power skill at the same time. It doesn't have to be the same skill. The one jumper can do a one-handed frog and the other one a one-handed push-up. That's fine, no problem. Same thing with the gymnastic skills. If they do gymnastic skills, they both have to do a gymnastic skill at the same time, and once again, it doesn't have to be the same gymnastic skill. Okay? There are different ways how you can notate all of these things. If you do a power skill series, I suggest you write an S for series. If you do high power levels, I suggest you write a P. And if you do gymnastic skills, I suggest you write a G and a G+ if they do such an awesome gymnastic skill, which is more difficult. One last thing. If they did a one-handed push-up, for instance, in an ordinary double Dutch, and later on they do a one-handed push-up in a Chinese wheel, then it is still the same one-handed push-up and you do not give credit for it again. If you remember, in the difficulty part for the double Dutch, you do give credit for both of those push-ups on one hand. In this part, you just look at the skill that they do. Did they do already a one-handed push-up? Yes, sorry, then we don't give credit anymore. Okay, that was the part, what do the jumpers have to do. We also have a small part for the turners. What do we ask from the turners? Once again, not from one turner, but all of the turners together. 10 different turning skills and 5 different jumping skills as a turner. 10 different turning skills. You can do a lot of turning skills in a very small time. You can turn a double under, which is already a turning skill. You can turn a triple under, this is another turning skill. You can stand in a Kruger, that's another turning skill. You can turn with crossed arms, that's another turning skill. You can turn like this, that's another turning skill. You can turn like this, that's another one, and so on and so on and so on. And even combinations of these. I am standing here, my other turner over there, I am doing Kruger all by myself. That's a turning skill. Later on, I'm doing a Kruger and the guy on the other side is also doing a Kruger. Then that's another turning skill. So basically it goes really, really fast. What is a little bit more difficult are the jumping skills as a turner. So when are you a turner? If you have at least 1 rope or 2 ropes in your hand, then you are a turner. How can you do jumping skills as a turner? We immediately think of a Chinese wheel, for instance. Okay, I jump the rope now my partner is jumping the rope, but you can also do the crisscross in a Chinese wheel. Now I'm jumping the rope, he's jumping the rope, I'm jumping the rope, etc., etc. So that's one way to do jumping skills. Also a jump through, where you're turning like this and you jump over the rope, for instance, to turn like this, or you go through the whole way, you jump, and then you're through the whole way, you made a full circle. These are also ways to jump as a turner. Also in giant wheel, where I only have one handle and I jump the other rope, or I jump my own rope, this is also a jumping skill. I normally write a capital T for a turning skill and a capital J for a jumping skill. One small remark, it's sometimes possible that they do both things at the same time. They do a turning skill and a jumping skill. What do you write down? If they do a jumping skill, you always write down a capital J. You always give priority to the jumping skill. So if I'm jumping, I'm doing a jump through, and the guy on the other side is doing a Kruger, that's great, but it will be a J. It will be a jumping skill. That's all you need to know for the required elements in double Dutch.